So this works now with cards in. This was not an easy journey to transition to from where I showed it a while ago running a demo off this floppy drive. The cards in here now are a network card on the Isobus, an XT bridge board, a revision 4 A2091 hard drive controller, SCSI hard drive controller with a couple of mega RAM on it, which helps it with its speed as well as gives me some more RAM, and a 4 megabyte Amiga Commodore 2630 accelerator. And I've actually found that OS 3.2.2, when it's running, uses a fair bit of RAM, maybe 1.5 megabytes, more than I thought, but it is full featured, so I suppose that had to happen. With 4 meg on here though, and with the fact that most of the chip RAM is still available, I've got plenty of space there for running games off WHD load or doing whatever else I want to do on a computer of this vintage, except for maybe retargetable graphics. Well, except for definitely retargetable graphics. The part of the reason this was so tough is that these two cards, the hard drive controller and the accelerator, do not play nicely in a revision 6.2 motherboard. And fixing that was both surprisingly hard and surprisingly easy. First thing was figuring out where the problem was. I knew that this worked fine in another computer, and I knew that this was running fine without this. And so I concluded there was a problem in their interaction, and a bit of a Google search found a 30-year-old post that explained that they'd had the same problem and the solution. And the solution that had been posted on the web was to replace 605, IC 605 down there, with a different part. They are from the factory, the Commodore parts are these ones, and they are a SN74 ALS 245AN, and the guide I found said to replace them with HCT 245s instead of ALSs. My local electronics supplier that I could drive to quite quickly only had HCs, not HCTs, and I used a pair of those and the computer started. I still had some residual problems. I wasn't sure what was causing them. I bought an extra one with a resistor and added a resistor to it, which is in accordance with another guide on how to deal with DMA issues on these cards that can cause slowdowns. And that was the last of my issues, with some general unreliability. I took this back out because of the DMA issues it was causing rather than fixing with these ICs, and realised that my boot partition on the hard drive image I'd started using was a PFS3 image partition, and I went back to the standard Amiga fast file system, and that runs reliably too now. So the computer runs reliably and it's quite quick. I am going to try a small executable called SCSI to Fast, which moves the ROMs on this SCSI card here into the accelerator's fast RAM, which apparently will help with smaller file transfers, should cause large directories to load quicker for me, I'm hoping. Not that they're too slow, but nice to be faster. So it's working well. Now, if I have one thing in this video that I really did want to share, it's about these. These are data sheets for ICs. They look intimidating, but they're not. They're hard work and it's difficult to understand all of it, but they can be read and they're designed to be read. By being able to be read, engineers can better use the manufacturer's parts and will do so. I would say don't be put off by these. I mean, the first rule of Dunning-Kruger Club is that you don't know you're in Dunning-Kruger Club, sure, but At the same time, there's an awful lot of information here that's readily accessible, and what I was looking for, although my parts aren't made by Toshiba, what I was looking for in the data sheet when I realised I could get the HC245s was that they worked at 5 volts like the original part and like the HCT part, that the power and ground pins and the data pins were in the same spot, and that it was kind of right with respect to the speed at which the chip could operate. It turned out it's slightly faster than the HCT. The T is for, I think it was for TTL compatibility. So slightly faster, same voltages, and this symbol, this image down here, I've expanded along with some other notes, it seems. And I was able to confirm that the pinout of this chip was the same as the pinout of the other chips. And while that wouldn't guarantee it worked, it made me confident enough to put the chips in and turn on the machine. It turns out they did work, which is fantastic. It does mean though that whatever's going through 602 and 605 can only occur at half the maximum speed it used to. And that's exactly what the computer needed to actually operate. So I have a whole bunch of software setup still to do in here. It will be a long-term project to get a whole bunch of stuff running properly, getting some stuff installed on the XT side without a floppy drive plugged in, a 5 1/4 inch, because I just don't want to go there, and I think I have a few ways around needing to. We will see. Network, I need to get floppy drives sorted out, maybe have another go at reflashing my custom framed GoTech that I made. I did all the work to convert an old GoTech over to flash floppy and 3D printed a thing, but I can't program it. I've got all the right headers and all the right jumpers and everything, and I'm just going to try it on an old Windows XP laptop I keep for legacy purposes. Maybe it's always been a thing with the USB adapters, and I've tried it with Linux. I've tried anyway. Hopefully I can get that running, and then I can have a real floppy and the GoTech, and I may actually put a floppy switcher in here. On an Amiga 500 you can just make the external drive bootable. You can't do that here because DF0 and DF1 are both in the case, but you can swap them around, which is actually pretty useful. I can boot off either one, although I don't know, we'll see. I need it less and less the more and more things I've got in WHD load, and 3.2.2 deals with floppy images really well, and I thought about writing some scripts so that any floppies that I actually want to boot off, I can run a little script that will mount the floppy drive, mount the floppy into a virtual floppy drive, which is easy enough, then mount a RAD disk, a non-volatile RAM disk, copy the floppy into RAD, and then boot off it. Although it does raise a lot of the same problems as things not being in DFO. Anyway, or DF0 I should say. Next on this channel, I've got some plans. I'll put things on here that are of interest to me on a timeline that is not unpleasant for me, because that's what this channel is. It's me sharing things that I've done and that I'm ready to and want to share. So we'll see. I mean, in terms of what I might do next, I've got some audio electronics I need to build. I built some active crossovers and amplifiers and stuff many years ago, and they're all still in kind of working prototype configuration, and it means they hum a little bit and that there's some work to be done there. I want to become proficient in SMD soldering, so I bought some practice kits from eBay. I'm alright with it. You probably saw me put the LEDs in down there for this fellow. but I'm not going to start, say for example, trying to solder a 68030 CPU, a surface mount one, into my Amiga 3000 Remake until I am absolutely crackerjack with it. And I'm interested in doing some stuff with stencils, and I have some repair work to do on a Revision 6.2 motherboard, which if I can get it done, I will keep for at least a while as a test bed. I've got some cards that are misbehaving that I can use it, that I can hopefully fix using it as a test bed rather than coming in and out of here all the time. Plenty more fun stuff to do, and when I do it, I'll turn on this camera, and if you're interested, you can see it here.